They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD and I have my lovely and talented co-host.
Hello, JD.
Melissa. And Melissa and I are super excited to introduce you guys to our next guest. This is Dustin Heiner. He is the founder of Master Passive Income. He's also the author of How to Quit Your Job with Rentals. Dustin, I know we had some scheduling conflicts. We're really appreciative of you working with our schedule on this. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. And really appreciate you having me on the show. I love podcasting, and actually I love real estate investing. And it's more of what real estate affords me to do in my life. Like, I literally don't work a job. I love the term successfully unemployed. So I'm successfully unemployed. I just, go to the gym, hang out with my family, drink coffee, and then come on podcasts and talk to great people like you. But I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Awesome. Well, for some in our audience who maybe don't know you, don't know your story, haven't heard it before, can you kind of give us the A to Z, where you started and how you got there, and we'll just kind of see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, totally. So it was back in 2006 when I first started investing in real estate. And when I was 37 years old, I was blessed to be able to quit my job because I had enough rental properties that brought in passive income every single month. Because all of my expenses are taken care of, I was able to quit. But I didn't start there. In fact, I started where everybody else starts. And so we all know this path that we're all told, and I was following down the same path. Basically, you go to school, you get good grades. Then you get those good grades, you go to college or university, and you hopefully get even better grades and get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt and get a piece of paper called a degree. And you go to other companies and try to get a quote unquote career at these companies, and then work 40 plus years of your life and then retire at 65 or older and hope to retire on what you managed to save that entire time working that job, is what I like to call it, a just over broke job. Well, I'm doing that exact same thing. In fact, I get the most stable, secure job I could ever think of. I am in California at the time, working at a local county government and doing technology. So technology is not going away. California and government, they're all not going away. And so I'm working that same regular 9-to-5 desk job. And I, at the same time, have been very entrepreneurial, starting businesses. And so when I was young, I had a newspaper route, riding a bike with newspapers and throw them at 5 o'clock in the morning and banging them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic website design company, skateboard manufacturing business, even a pizzeria and a convenience store, starting from the ground up. But at the same time, following the same path that everybody's taught me. And then I bought one rental property. It's like in 2006. And that one rental property, it blew my mind because I remember that check, plain as day, it was $317 that I got. I thought, my goodness, I need to double down. Like, I need to become an investor. Well, you guys, you know what happens? Like, life started getting in the way. My wife and I started having children. And eventually, we had our fourth child. And this is what really shoved me to become a real estate investor. So my wife had her fourth child. I'm still working my desk job, and I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and all that good stuff, and bonds with the baby. Well, I go back to work after about a couple of weeks, and on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, "Dustin, would you please come to the office?" And I said, "Sure." And I hung up the phone. I thought, why in the world they call me in the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good sign. Well, I started thinking about my 2 months prior, before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors or some rumbling going on in the county that there could potentially be layoffs. They were having issues with taxes and collections and stuff. I immediately thought, no way. I have a stable, secure job. So I shook that thought off. Well, I get up out of my desk and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Well, his door is closed. And I see a secretary there, super sweet, nice old lady. And she kind of sheepishly grins at me and kind of consoles me with her eyes. And because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. Well, she says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? So I go and I sit down and I start thinking about my life. If I lose my job right now, that whole plan that I was told by other people, I started thinking, did I just waste my life doing this? And then, oh my goodness, we just had our fourth child. If I lose my job right now, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing down on me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a lady, a coworker of mine, with a piece of paper in her hands. And she is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you could tell her world has been rocked. Well, she passes by me, and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And I tell the story because I want you guys to realize what I realized. Well, I take that piece of paper and I walk down the hallway back to my office. In this hallway, it's not very long. In fact, it's kind of short, but every single step I took, it felt like the hallway got longer and longer and longer. And it felt like my feet became lead bricks because losing my job was crushing down on me. Well, I go and I sit down at my desk and I realize two things. Well, the first thing, I need to get another job. I need to build a provide for my family. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county. A different department wasn't having issues. So check, got that. The second thing, and this is the reason why I tell the story, sitting in my chair, just getting let off, I realized I need to make sure that this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized every time somebody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? I would be basically replying, oh, I work for the county doing technology. Well, I'm basically projecting the value that I put on myself as coming from my job. My value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, from myself, and from my family. So right then and there, I knew I always needed to be an investor, but life got in the way. I said, no longer will I let life get in the way. I will now tell everybody that I am an investor. Now, it so happens that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's not my part-time job. I am a full-time investor. So fast forward the story, started buying property after property after property, each one making me $250 or more in passive income. Eventually, at 30 plus properties. And I realized, my goodness, even though I'm making $75,000 a year at this job, I'm actually losing money. So the last part of the story is I went to my new boss, good boss and all. I said, hey boss, here's your layoff notice. Like, I'm laying you off. And, we laughed. I was jokingly doing that. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate. It works for me without my working. Well, the last part is I walked to and from my job to my car about 1.5 miles every single day, about 1,000 times I've done it. Well, this time I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again. Now, everybody listen to this, you need to realize that you are worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And this is how you'll know. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money that takes money out of their pocket. If they paid you what you were worth, they would go broke. Instead, if you were able to figure out how, and my suggestion is real estate investing, where I make passive income, if you then put all the value that you bring to your own businesses, your own investing, then you capture every bit of that. Now, I have 40 plus hours of my life back to myself that I now build businesses. I invest in real estate. I literally have 5 businesses now that are streams of income coming in that flow into my river of income, which is my real estate investing. So I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions.
Yeah, well, one, what was the timeline from when you got that next job until you were able to lay your boss off?
It took about 4, maybe 5 years. And a big reason why I stopped a little, or I should have quit sooner because I was working really hard. I got a lot of properties, but I was quitting my job and I was in the middle of a loan refinancing on like 4 properties, and banks don't like it when you quit your job. And so I had to work a little longer. As soon as I got that loan, it was funded, I went to my boss and got, but yeah, it took about 5 years total. And in all, it took me about, I'd say 9 years of totally like building my business and making sure that I'm doing it right. But in the end, it was because I was able to scale my business to buy more properties where I don't work. In fact, last thing I'll quickly say, a lot of people have read it's a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. It's a good book and all. And the premise is build your life so you can work only 4 hours a week. Well, in my opinion, working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't even want to work 4 hours a month. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all my properties. Just look at my property management statements, make sure everything looks good, and go and put it aside. And now I go back to play with my kids because I built a business that runs itself.
Sure, and that sounds really good. It sounds great, but I don't want to give anybody the false pretense that it's easy or that it's quick or that you just stumbled into 30 minutes a month from the get, so going from zero properties to being able to fire your boss, that took a lot of hard work and effort. Can you talk to me about, like, okay, how are you buying these properties, and what did that process actually look like where you're able to, you utilize loans, I'm sure private money, hard money, that kind of stuff to get in there? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And JD, you're 100% right. This is not a get rich quick scheme. And in fact, what I like to say, it's a get wealthy plan. What we do is we work this planning eventually that we have to where it works out. So yes, when I bought my first property, in fact, I just got married, and the very first property I bought, I said to my wife, because I didn't have any savings. My wife did. I didn't have debt. I was taught not to get into debt, but I was not taught to save. My wife was taught to save. And I said, hey, honey, we just got married 6 months ago. Can I take all the money you saved and go start investing in real estate? That took a lot of work, but praise the Lord, we were able to buy the first property. Well, let me quickly share with you how I scaled it. So I bought the house, fixed it up, got it rented, and then refinanced it, pulled the cash back out, and then I kept scaling the business from there. So the term now that's kind of been coined now is the BRRRR strategy: buy, rent, refinance, repeat, rehab, all that sort of stuff. Well, I did that back in 2006, and so I've done that over and over again. But let me quickly share with you the wrong way that I found was the absolute wrong way. In fact, here, let me show you how, and I'll quickly give you the right way of how I was able to scale, because this is not fast, but if you have a business built, you will be able to scale the business like I did. Now, when I first got started, it was in 2006. I was watching late night TV, and a late night infomercial came on, and his guru said, hey, we're coming to your town. You guys are free 2-hour seminar. We're going to teach you how to invest in real estate. I said, sure, this sounds great. So I went to that 2-hour seminar, so excited. And it was all hype, all sales pitch for another 2-day seminar. They said, now run to the back. It's normally $1 million, but it's $1,000 today. I ran to the back and paid money. Went to that 2-day seminar, and it was so much more hype and sales pitch for an $80,000 course, a $60,000 course. It was so much money. And I said, man, I don't have that money, let alone any ability and time to do this. So with that, I did take what little they taught you. And this is what all the quote unquote gurus will tell people. And I'll tell you the wrong way. That my property manager, I follow this, my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months. It was absolutely horrible. But then I figured out the right way. So the wrong way, this is what the gurus will tell you: find a property anywhere in the country and run the numbers. Make sure you're breaking even, maybe making $50 a month in passive income, but you'll get appreciation. Remember, this is 2006. You'll get appreciation. You're going to love that. And I'll pause this and say, I don't invest for appreciation. I invest for cash flow and passive income. This is generational wealth that I'm building. I will literally give these properties to my kids. So they say, appreciation, get a little bit of money in passive income. Then you spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property, and then you find a tenant, and then you find a property manager. Well, in my opinion, that's just about backwards. In fact, I did that, and my property manager started stealing from me because I didn't do it right. Now, if I would have hung my head and said, this just doesn't work, oh, woe is me, I would not be here today. But I did think, you know what? Let me approach this from a business mindset. Remember, I've always, started businesses before. Well, if I started from a business mindset, what I would do is I would build the business first, not just buy the property. And this is really what it looks like. Here's the right way to do it. So forget all that bad way. Let me give you the right way. There's an analogy. So if you're going to start a convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all that good stuff, well, you would not sign a lease on a location, open the doors and set a box of candy bars in there on ground. You wouldn't do that. In fact, you go out of business in like 2 seconds. But what you would do is you would build the business first. You'd buy all the gondolas. Those are shelving units that all the candy bars go on, the countertops, cold storage, fountain machines, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We build the entire business, get everybody, all the experts in the area that we're investing to make sure we're doing it right. And then we buy a property. And that property is our inventory. And we put that property into our business. That's how I was then able to scale the business and know I was doing it right. So the last part, because I know you probably have questions, but the last thing I'll say was I hired experts in the area. Now, I was in California at the time. I now invest in Ohio, Arizona, Texas, and Missouri as well. That was really just love investing in real estate. And with that investing, I personally don't do any work, because what I've done is I now have lots and lots of experts who live there on the ground. In fact, Zillow's not an expert, Redfin, Truly, like all those companies are not experts. They're just databases that just give you information. Who are the experts? It's the people living there. Like, let's say you call up a property manager and say, hey, property manager, I follow the gurus. I just bought a house, spent thousands of dollars. Will you manage a property? And sadly, I've heard this all the time. The property manager comes back and says, no, I won't manage that property because I'll get shot there. Well, you no longer have an asset. You have a liability. How much better would it be instead when you say, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property. Would you manage it? Tell me how much it could rent for. What's the vacancy factor? What's the clientele like? Will you manage it? If they say no, well, then you don't buy the property. You save all that time and effort and headache. And then if they say yes, they'll tell you how much it rents for, what type of clientele, vacancy factor, all that stuff. Then you can make sure you're doing it right. So my suggestion is we build the business first. We hire the experts that live there on the ground, and they make sure we're doing it right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. What I know is once you learn how to create the right team around you one time, you can duplicate that in the other locations. I definitely wouldn't recommend going out and buying one property in all those different markets. You build your team, learn how to manage a team, and then move to those other markets. And I think it's a great strategy. Kind of building your parachute on the way down doesn't always work like it does in the
It does not. No, you're 100% right. And I did that, like I said, and my property manager started stealing from me. And at the same time, I have lots of students. In fact, I've coached hundreds of thousands of students now, that I get a lot of people coming to me and say, Dustin, I did this wrong, or I did exactly what the guru said, but I want to now scale the business. And getting to your question a little bit ago, like how did I get this and scale the business with the financing? What is great is if you build the business right, you're going to have lots of options for financing properties, for finding properties, for managing properties, and we build up this business. And I'll give you a quick example. So in financing the properties, just like finding the properties, finding and funding, very, very similar. Imagine you have a tool belt for any particular job. Let's say you're an electrician, you got a bunch of tools in your tool belt. Well, I personally know of and have used 15 different ways to get financing to buy my properties. I also have at least a dozen different people from each city that I invest in sending me deals. So imagine this. If you're worried about financing properties, I need to get money, I don't have enough money saved. Well, there are so many different ways. I mean, obviously you could get a regular mortgage, private money lenders, hard money lenders, portfolio loans, blanket loans, commercial loans, signature loans. You go to a bank, you get an unsecured line of credit. I've even used a credit card. I literally cashed out on a credit card and bought a property. Now it's advanced strategy, but I knew my business. Now I'll give you a quick example of what that would look like. Let's say you can buy a candy bar for 50 cents. Every day you could buy it for 50 cents, and you knew without a shadow of doubt, you can sell it for $1 every single day, all day long. Well, you would buy as many as you could and sell as many as you could because you make 50 cents. The great thing about real estate investing is even if you didn't have that 50 cents, you can borrow that 50 cents. Let's say it costs you 25 cents to borrow 50. Well, now you're out of pocket 75 cents. You sell it for $1, you make 25 cents every single time. You'll be thinking, how can I borrow more money? Because I know my business, as long as I account for all those expenses. And last thing I'll quickly say is, all your expenses in your real estate investing business, because it's the same like a candy bar. We want to make sure we're making money in passive income. We would not start a business to lose money. No, we start a business to make money. Now, just like that candy bar analogy, you're going to be making money, but you need to account for all your expenses. But here's the great thing about real estate investing. Now, we all know what kind of our expenses. I'll quickly go through them. So, well, I'll say this. I don't pay my mortgage on any of my properties. I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay for my property managers. Like, I don't have to get a job to do that. My tenants pay for all of that. All these expenses are accounted for before I buy the property. And a lot of people ask me, well, Dustin, how do you afford a property manager? I said, I don't have to get a job. Like, I don't afford it. In fact, what I do though, is I build the business that accounts for all those expenses and a property manager, because I don't want to manage the properties. Once those expenses are accounted for, then I make sure that I could rent it for $250 or more in passive income. My suggestion, and what I teach all my students, is $250 or more in passive income from every single property. And the last thing I'll say is, if you bought one property at $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year in passive income. And just to scale, you just buy the next piece of inventory. If you had 10 properties at $250 a month, that's $2,500 a month in passive income, $30,000 a year without working. 20 properties at $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year in passive income. And it's all about scaling, but you have all these tools to get these properties in, finding them and funding them, and then managing them as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. That's the way that we look at all of our investments. You know, when we first started out, $100 a door was good enough. If I could go back now, I would have started at that $250. And now, once you have a few properties, you can start to get rid of the lower performing ones and buy better performing ones, upgrade your inventory and all that kind of stuff. But starting out, I think that those are great metrics to go by. And nobody should ever be surprised at how much they're making at the end of the month when they are buying real estate. No, and whether that's a fix and flip or a rental, you should know all of that going into it and making educated decisions. People talk about real estate investing as risky. Real estate investing is less risky than a lot of other investments, but only if you're accounting for the right numbers and you're learning the right way to do it, and not necessarily the guru way of doing that. Dustin, I think that you have a ton of good information, and I'm wondering if you might share with us, you know, where our audience can find out more about you, you know, or your podcast, or and most importantly, I'll just stop that. Where can I get one of those shirts at?
Thank you. So if you guys aren't seeing this on YouTube, I have a shirt that says successfully unemployed. And so I first started telling everybody I was retired, and people would ask me, well, what do you do with your time? You're 37 years old. I'm like, well, now I like the term successfully unemployed because I found a way to make money to provide for myself and my family without working that dead end job. Well, I'll definitely, well, shoot, I'll send you guys one. So when we get off, give me your address and I'll send it to you. But yeah, I appreciate it. And actually, I have a free course that I love giving out. Just teaches everybody how to do it. Do you guys mind if I share that with everybody?
Yeah, please do. We'll link it in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Well, if you text the word rental, RENTAL, text the word rental to 33777, rental to 33777, I'll literally give you my book, my course, showing you how to find an area of the country and invest, how to build the business, how to scale it to quit your job. You can even go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, masterpassiveincome.com/free course, all one word. I'll literally give it to you. And with that, I also have my podcast, the Master Passive Income Podcast. It's usually just me. Like 90% of the show is just me. I rarely do interviews, just teaching, giving all this information out to people. And so it's the Master Passive Income Podcast. Same thing with YouTube. You look that up. But you can also find me on Instagram. I actually don't mind. I actually enjoy getting DMs on there. But the Dustin Heiner, THE Dustin Heiner. You'll find me on there. Last quick thing is, when I first got started, I went to that seminar where they said, run to the back. And I hated that, but I knew that I wanted to build a community of other real estate investors. So I created a conference. The conference is called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And it's an annual conference this year in March of 2024. We're going to be in St. Louis. It's Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, REWBCON.com, rubcon.com. But if you use the promo code podcast, I'll give you 10% off because I know you come from the Real Estate Jam podcast. And I want to make sure that everybody's investing. There's no run to the back. It's all about helping people, just like your podcast. I mean, everybody continue listening to the podcast. We want to make sure that we're all growing. We're all helping each other out. But I really appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's a ton of information there.
Thanks, Dustin.
All of those links will be in the show notes. So you guys make sure you get over there and check them out, show them some support. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.